Big Questions with the Dead Milkmen. Each week, while working on the new album, the Dead Milkmen ask each other a question.
So this week's question is, in your opinions, what is the worst band breakup? And in your opinion, what is the best band breakup? And you guys could take those words for several meanings, I guess, but what I was getting at was what I felt like the worst breakup was the Kinks, because I feel like they went for 30 some years and then in the 90s just kind of stopped. And if the brothers weren't getting along, I know that they had trouble in the late 60s because they were fighting and they couldn't tour the US. And some say that that contributed to, you know, all those years of tension. And I think they made some great albums in the 70s though. But yeah, I think it's disappointment, and they still haven't gotten back together, and it's going on 30 years. They broke up in 1996, I think. And this book that Dean got me a while ago, it's great. And I had a runner-up because I thought about that the Cramps broke up because Lux Interior died, and I thought that would be a good runner-up. Because I think R.E.M. made some great albums in the mid 80s and late 80s, I guess. And then they made a bunch of stuff for, I don't know. And it's funny, I was just thinking like, oh, they broke up like 5 years ago. And I looked it up, it was 2011. And it was there was like no fanfare. If anything, I think there was either a Hard Times or an Onion article about it, like mocking like, oh, they broke up now, like, and they just kind of they called it a day, and I just think, you know, it was the best for them because it would have just been like an ugly corpse by the time, you know, they had kept going until this point. Imagine R.E.M. going through COVID. So yeah, that's it.
Well, everybody hurts.
Sometimes.
You know, I often will run into a Kinks fan and I'll say, do you watch less than 16 hours of television a day? And they'll say, no. And I say, then you're not a Kinks fan. Because of that, they have that song, Watching TV. They instructed their fan base what to do. And yeah. I'm like, then don't call. Yeah, folks, if you watch less than 16 hours of TV a day, don't call yourself a Kinks fan.
Agreed.
Well, as you may see, I am calling in from an undisclosed third location. So for my worst breakup, I actually have two, but one is a band called the Long Blondes. They were a British band that formed in the early aughties, like 2003, and I think they lasted for about 5 years or so. They broke up because their lead guitar player had a stroke and apparently couldn't play anymore or something. And they broke up for a long time. And actually, during doing research for this call, I was looking at their Wikipedia page. It turns out that he is better now, which is awesome. And he and the woman who were the two leads in the band have actually reformed as a duo, I guess, last year and are working on music. So that's kind of cool. That's kind of the problem with the breakups. The bands, like, they come back. They're zombie bands. They reform. They keep going. The other band, you've heard me mention my love for XTC a long time here on this channel. You know, they had some great albums in the early days and into the 90s. Some people drifted away. The drummer left, and eventually Dave Gregory left. You know, some of the later stuff is interesting, but not for me, not as really as entertaining as the early stuff. So it was kind of sad to see them kind of disintegrate and not play together anymore. As far as best breakups, I mean, there's a whole host of like 60s, 70s, and 80s bands that I'm glad are not around anymore. I mean, one of my most beloved breakups is Guns N' Roses, because I just can't stand that band. I know people like them, but they just, yeah, they disintegrated and they hate each other. Although I think I heard they're sort of playing again. I'm not sure. That's the problem with these breakups. They get back together.
And see, that was my runner-up for worst in another way, was Kiss. How many times have they been like, this is their last tour?
Well, yeah, really bad at that is The Who. I think they're on their 17th final. I don't know. So yeah, that brings me to another question, which is, which bands would you hope broke up?
Yeah.
I would say The Who and the Rolling Stones for me. They should just like hang it up and do their own thing from now
Without
on.
Charlie Watts, yeah.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, they're done. So yeah, that's. I'll provide links to a couple of pages. There's a page on the Consequence of Sound website that purportedly tracks band breakups. So if you bookmark that, you can see which bands are breaking up. And I found an AARP webpage that talks about reunion tours for bands going by. So you boomers out there can get back and see your favorite bands. So anyway, that's my answer.
Every now and then I'll bump into somebody and they'll tell me what a big XTC fan they are. And I'm like, well, are your senses working overtime? And they'll say no. And I'll say, then don't call yourself an XTC fan. Am I up?
Yes.
Oh, all right. Worst, that's easy. Babyland. Babyland broke up in 2009. And right before they broke up, they played the Troc. And I was going to go see them. And I said, oh, no, I'll get another opportunity to see Babyland, and I'm not going to. So the lesson there, folks, is if there's a band coming through that you've never seen and you think you want to see them, go see them, because you never know when they ain't going to be coming through again. So, and some of you out there might know Babyland for their cover of Burning Up, Madonna's Burning Up, but there's so much more. I mean, you know, incredible songs like Mask, they're really, really good. And we're going to throw up links to we might throw up, but we're going to throw up links to the Troc show. And the show is absolutely amazing. It's one of those things, it's gone into legend. I wish I could have been there, and I probably kicked myself 3 times a day for not being there. The thing about Babyland is there's a Lenny and Squiggy album that has a little piece on it called Babyland. It's a poem. And I found out about Babyland because I think in the late 90s or early 2000s, I was saying, how many miles to Babyland? And somebody said, you like that band? I'm like, I wasn't familiar as a band. So I went on Napster and I downloaded, I was like, oh, they have an album called You Suck Crap. I got to hear these guys. And so I downloaded it for a couple songs. And then this is what I used to do back then. I would download them from Napster. And if I liked them, I would go down to the Ferret and I would buy their stuff. And so I liked them. So I bought a lot of their stuff. But I think Lloyd Kaufman from Trauma Films, the guy did like Toxic Avenger, I saw an interview with him once and he nailed it about Napster. He said, big record companies aren't mad at Napster because they're trying to protect Metallica. They're just trying to keep you from hearing a band that you might like better than Metallica. And I really, really love Babyland. And I wish there's I tried to work it in. We'll see how it eventually works out. But I tried to have something that was kind of percussively, hopefully on the new album that's like Babyland. It's a song we did in practice and worked on a little bit. So that should be interesting. So that is really all I have to say about that. Now let's talk about, I don't know, the breakup that warms the cockles of my heart. And it's a breakup that I can't really talk about. I have to show it to you using Popsicle Stick Theater. Yes. So here we go. It is now time for Popsicle Stick Theater. Hello, John. Hello, Paul. How's your son Jules doing? Oh, I guess he's all right. Last week, I sent him a box of Ritz crackers and a warm glass of tap water. Oh, I'm thinking about breaking up the Beatles. That's a capital idea, John. We're mediocre. And if we break up now, people remember us as being better than we were. Should we tell George and Ringo? Who? All right, then. I'm off to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame to induct Juice Newton. Hey, Juice. You're getting in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You wrote some songs and they could have been better. All right, then. What I'm going to do is I'm going to corner the market on earplugs, and then I'm going to promote my wife's singing career. And scene.
Wow.
I remember exactly where I was when I heard the news that the Beatles broke up. I think I was not quite 8 years old, and I was listening to WFIL, and the DJ announced it right before he played the song Let It Be. But that is not the worst breakup for me. In fact, back then, the Beatles weren't that significant to me anyway. They wouldn't become significant until maybe 5 or so years later. For me, the worst breakup that I remember, and I remember where I heard about it, was the band Husker Du, who I liked a lot. Although I didn't really I liked all their albums up until the very last one they made, Warehouse Songs and Stories, which was a double album, and I thought it was subpar for them. But then the Dead Milkmen were on tour, and we were playing a show on the bill with the band The Big Dipper, and they were the ones that said, "Hey, did you hear that Husker Du broke up?" And I was sad, and they never got back together, and they never will. Yeah, and I was also sad when I heard Campbell and Beethoven broke up, but I don't count them because they did get back together. And I don't know, I don't like them as much as I did when in the 80s. Anyway, the band that I was happy to hear that they broke up, and I think it was 86 or so, were called The Police. At first I kind of liked the Police, and then it was a steady drip of liking them less and less until I couldn't stand them by the time the Synchronicity album songs came. It's like, it was like the more popular they got, the more hits they got, the worse, the more annoying they became to me. So, and I know they're great musicians separately and whatever. I'm not a Sting fan, by the way, either. But I was happy that they broke up. And they did actually get back together but only for a tour. They didn't make any more albums. And I don't think they'll be back together again. They made a ton of money, and that was that.
There's some great footage of Stewart Copeland and Sting arguing during that, rehearsing for that tour.
I think William Shakespeare said it best when he said, "Sting, where is thy death?"
All right, good answers, guys. Recommendations. I would recommend, if you want a pet, you should adopt one or find rescue one. The family dog just passed away, Michaela, and 2 days later, I was at my parents' house getting something from their house, and a black and white cat jumped out of the bush and came right up to me and rubbed against my leg. And I was like, what? So I took pictures of it. I went onto my parents' neighborhood Facebook group page, and I was just like, is this somebody's? I didn't have a collar. I was like, is this somebody's cat? I was amazed at how these people, like this network of people, were like, let's figure it out. And then they went to the people who owned the cat, and the people said, we don't actually want the cat anymore. It keeps coming back, and we're giving it food. And it's like the sweetest cat. So we took it in. We have it in our house, and we have an appointment to go to the vet to make sure it doesn't have a chip and it's fixed and everything. Supposedly it was fixed. But yeah, I would recommend, finding a cat that needs to be rescued. And luckily, hopefully, knock on wood, this one is healthy, like totally. Yeah.
I recommend a travel didgeridoo.
Ooh. Did you read it in there?
Anyway,
I don't know if it'll make sound, but if it does, it'll call every poisonous snake, spider, and backpack killer on the other side, the other hemisphere.
well, maybe I can get good enough. We can include this on the next album. You can get these. I got it as a birthday gift from my sister.
That is cool.
Gonna play it.
Joe can dub it in.
By the way, are normally long tubes.
Yeah.
But one is a travel one, and the channel of air goes through like a zigzag pattern. It's about the size of a like a large paperback book.
Does it have like a wax mouth?
No, it doesn't. It just has a hole in the
Yeah.
top and an exit area. Down.
Oh.
Love products.
A hole at the top and an exit area.
Doc Johnson, remember?
All right, Rodney.
All right, that it for your recommendations?
My recommendation for the week.
Okay. My first recommendation is a TV show that is on Apple TV Plus, and it's called Severance, and it is freaking amazing. There's only one season of it. It'll be back for another season, and it is one of the best things I've ever seen on TV. It's about a company that severs you mentally. So when you show up for work, that you, as soon as you step in, you're a different person. And when you leave, you become another person. So your home self and your work self are split.
Really?
And it is really, super creepy. And if you're like me and you work in an office, it's even creepier.
What if you work from home?
What's that? Well, I work from home. I go in an office one day a week.
No, I'm saying in the show, like if somebody works from
No, it don't work that way. They can't get you if you work from home. They really can't do much for you. But it needs to be seen. It's got the only real names in it. I think Patricia Arquette is known. John Turturro is known, and Christopher Walken is in it. And it's the most Christopher Walken role. It's the platonic ideal of Christopher Walken. It is absolutely amazing. This is my favorite show probably ever. It tops, in my mind, the first season of Twin Peaks. It is that good. The people who, the main sort of three of the main four characters are actors who, were out working in sort of smaller stuff, often doing voice work and stuff. And so you can tell they're troopers. And man, it is absolutely amazing. So it's Severance on Apple TV. You need to see this. Now I'm going to recommend a movie. Like most of America, last weekend, Vienna and I decided to go see Morbius because everybody's going to see Morbius. But when we got there, the line was too long. It wrapped around the block. Apparently, one does not just walk into Morbius. So we went home and we decided, well, we can't see Morbius. What do we do? There's a movie we watched called All My Friends Hate Me. It's brand new. It's from 2022. Again, All My Friends Hate Me is a very, very dark comedy, and I love me my dark comedies. So I can't give away much about it. It's sort of about paranoia, and it's a British film, and it is really good. So big recommendations this week are for Severance and All My Friends Hate Me.
I'm recommending this book called The Oak Papers. I got it last year for my birthday, but I just finally got around to reading it. I'm not completely finished with it yet, but I don't foresee it starting to suck completely. I think it's going to be good. It's this author, James Canton's, basically his 2-year rumination on an oak tree that in North Essex, England, that's been living for about 800 years. And not just that oak tree, but he talks about some research he did about oak trees and in general, and he brings up a lot of interesting history about the oak tree and what it's done for Western civilization, especially in England and Europe, and mythology and whatever.
You tie a yellow ribbon around.
Yeah,
Oh,
well, that may be coming up. It's written in diary form. He didn't mention yet the song by Tony Orlando and Dawn. I know they didn't write it, but
The reason we knock on wood is because the devil supposedly can't touch oak.
And the
Doesn't
word
that have to be an oak stake with a vampire? Or?
I don't
Might it be Holly?
a wooden stake, but I don't.
Oh.
He claims that the word druid is derives from oak, because Drew, the Drew part meant ook. And the wid part meant knowledge of.
That sounds pretty cool.
So yeah, it's in paperback and on Kindle.
You
Barking
know,
up the right tree.
excuse me.
I said he's barking up the right tree. I don't know. I'm trying to think of a pun there.
You know, I was just thinking Yoko is kind of like the human didgeridoo. She's sort of like